Read thy scripture, mortals! Salutations, every pony! Welcome to the show that gives animation the praise it properly deserves. Toon Kritic's the name, Toons are the name of my game. Well, today is a very, very special episode for my show. If you can't tell, I am dressed for the occasion. I got a new look, I'm all set, I'm all good. And it's been a long time coming, but I'm proud to call myself a bro.
My Little Pony Friendship is Magic is one of the stupidest and most
Okay, clearly a lot has changed since then. I don't even remember when I made that video anyway, and yes, a long time ago I didn't even understand anything on the show. But now I do, and I'm very proud to call myself a brony. I know good storytelling when I see it, and it's not just the story that makes me love the show, it's the atmosphere it creates. Most people would be repelled by the show upon their first glance, but once you get past the title and theme song, there really is a great show to be found here, with its interesting characters, colorful scenery, impressive music, and probably most importantly, the subtlety. At the end of each episode, most of them, you can usually find a friendship report or moral to the events of the episode told by Twilight Sparkle, the lead of the show, and later on, the other main characters. It's made clear at the end of the episode, but it's not shoved down our throats, and that's the other brilliant part of the show. Not to mention the music and songs can be pretty catchy. Find the remixes on YouTube and you'll be impressed with some of them, to all the others that make their own music and add to the show. So yeah, I didn't get why so many adults and teens like the show, and I didn't quite get how Friendship is Magic managed to get such a huge cult following. Seriously, when you got your own convention and it gets renewed for another go, just off fan support alone practically, you truly have something special. Or you have people saying, you've got issues. And why do so many others like it? Well, maybe it's because it stirs the strings of our inner childhood, and it isn't wrong to be in touch with your inner kid. How else would nostalgia come into play? Now, it's been a long time coming, but finally, with its second season complete, the Toon Kritic takes a look at perhaps one of the most insanely popular animated television shows that's giving both Cartoon Network and Nickelodeon a run for their money. Now, normally I don't review popular things in the mainstream, I'm always looking for the underrated and forgotten gems in the animated world, but really, Friendship is Magic is one exception I wouldn't mind making. Plus, a lot of my fans think it's worth it. Earlier this year, I'd actually thought to myself, how could I do this series justice? I could have some fun actually reviewing this series. My original idea was to do something similar to Disney Summer and Cinemasker's Monster Madness, but then I thought, nah, one video a day, that would take a lot of planning in advance, and I don't think I'd have it in me to do a monthly series. That, and also, I'm going to try not to swear in this episode. I know, right, but being professional for this one review is for the best. So are you ready? Good, because here we go. Fillies and gentle colts, I present to you My Little Pony Friendship is Magic.
Good afternoon, my name is Twilight Sparkle and you're watching the Toon Kritic, keeping it totally tuned for your viewing entertainment.
In an endless sea of animation stands one true dude for the 21st century, hailing proudly from the Shy City, Chicago's own Toon Kritic.
What do you see?
For those of you that thought that was Tara Strong, good guess. Big props to Rena Chan. You rock, girl. You will be proud you took a part of this. On October 20th, 2010, the pilot episode for a little show called My Little Pony Friendship is Magic aired on the Hub, the channel that replaced Discovery Kids. It was the latest reboot of the My Little Pony franchise, a TV show made mostly to market a toy line just like Transformers. Pretty much everybody laughed, kicking the series to the curb in favor of the new animated Transformers series that was trying to restore its reputation after Michael Bay screwed the series over. But then it happened. Who could have expected such a simple little show would take the world by storm? Roughly a year later, the series stood triumphant with one of the biggest cult followings the world had ever seen. And some of you are wondering, are you kidding me, My Little Pony, the girliest animated show ever? Why don't you just hand over your man card while you're at it? And therein lies the hidden secret of the series. A show that for years was never taken seriously by any boy above the age of ever suddenly became relevant, spreading across the internet like wildfire, bringing the enlightened into, well, the herd. To think in the beginning it used to be,
Screw My Little Pony, we got Transformers!
And now years later,
Ha! Screw Transformers, we got My Little Pony! Wait.
Friendship is Magic has become one of the most talked about series since the beginning of this decade, and today the Toon Kritic is going to give this series a proper review. Let's just go right ahead and skip the history lesson and just sum it up like this. Nobody gave 2 shillings about MLP really when it came out until about 2 years ago when the people at the hub were like, duh, Hasbro, we doing this thing here with Transformers, we're gonna reboot the whole series, and Michael Bay screwed it over, and Hasbro was like, okay, I see what you're doing here, let's try and do that with My Little Pony. Enter Lauren Faust, the creative genius behind Powerpuff Girls and Foster's Home for Imaginary Friends. Though quite skeptical on the idea, she took up My Little Pony and put her own touch to it, creating Friendship is Magic. At first the emphasis was supposed to be about adventure, but later it focused more on the relationships between the characters, with the occasional adventure thrown into the pile. With the proper inspiration behind her, Lauren Faust boldly went into the wild with her pet project now in tow as executive producer. She hired Daniel Ingram for the music, recruited the lovely Tara Strong as the main lead, received help from her husband Craig McCracken, and brought up Studio B Productions, later renamed DHX Media, as the animation studio HQ for the series, wishing to focus on Adobe Flash style animation. So, Lauren Faust, plus Tara Strong, plus Adobe Flash, plus a dead animated series for little girls that was boring, bland, and not even close to relevant. 2 years later, don't ask me how it happened, it worked. Made a believer out of me and my friends, I'll say, and ironically, I was the one to help convert them into it. So let's quickly get into the characters before we get to the main event though. Each of the 6 main characters are based around 6 basic character archetypes, and many can relate to these 6 because they can probably tell you they know people just like these in real life. Take it away, guys.
Representing the element of honesty, Applejack, voiced by Ashley Ball, resides in Sweet Apple Acres where she and her family harvest apples and sell them for profit. Out of all of the 6, AJ works the hardest among them with her family. Not only is she hardworking and reliable, she has no reservations about getting messy or dirty. She's highly athletic in terms of strength when it comes to harvesting apples and also running for rodeos and saving her friends. However, she is not without her faults in being just a bit too headstrong and often finds it difficult to go against her natural honesty. And that doesn't exactly help her reputation when the element of honesty has lied a few times. Some might find a justifiable reason, but you wouldn't want the element of bravery to be a natural coward, right? Through it all, Applejack shines through and is always there to help.
Rainbow Dash, also voiced by Ashley Ball, is the second to meet Twilight. She represents the element of loyalty, and I can see a lot of myself inside Rainbow Dash through her cockiness and attitude, even though that can get her into trouble. And she has a bit of an ego problem.
A bit!
Okay, a big attitude problem. She's like a 90s kid, wanting everything to be cool and radical, doing everything she can to be awesome in everyone's eyes. Now, some fans take Rainbow Dash as the lovable, cocky, annoying, tomboyish jerk, and while yes, this is true of her, when the chips are down, she will always be there for her friends. Take this. In the pilot episode, Rainbow Dash is offered fame and fortune, the chance to finally achieve her dream and join the Wonderbolts. However, it would be at the cost of her new friends, and yet she chooses the people she barely knows, whom she just met within a few hours, over her own needs. That is showing true loyalty, and hey, she slips up here and there, but she makes up for it through patience and compassion for her friends, always being supportive and encouraging others to help them out. Now, as a Pegasus, she is well blessed with agility, being able to pull off many swift stunts and moves, which comes in handy when cleaning up the clouds in the sky. And of course, her most patented move, the Sonic Rain Boom, which quite frankly can't be described in words.
Next up, representing the element of generosity, is Rarity, voiced by Tabitha St. Germain. Perhaps the most elegant and the most feminine out of the 6, Rarity exhumes elegance and style. She, like AJ and Pinky, owns her own business in the Carousel Boutique where she works as a seamstress, making and selling her dresses to anyone and everyone. Her love of natural beauty and the glamour of the spotlight sometimes can cloud her judgment in her mind. In one episode, she actually abandons her friends for the lifestyles of the rich and famous.
Which is one of the reasons why I don't really like her.
She takes great pride in her appearance and gets slightly carried away sometimes for her attention to detail. But she's not as bad as some people make her out to be. Yeah, she cares about her looks very often, but she's willing to sacrifice looks to save someone or to help someone in need. Which, in the end, is one of her redeeming qualities. And hey, we are all drama queens at some point, not as much as Rarity, but when we see over-the-top drama queens, you can't help but think of her. Oh yeah, and whoever thought of making Rarity speak the lyrics of Sexy and I Know It is either a genius or a fool.
Representing the element of kindness is Fluttershy, voiced by Andrea Libman. a quiet and timid Pegasus pony who lives in a little cottage at the edge of the evergreen forest. Here she takes care of animals and in one episode tried to help Rainbow Dash find a pet. She is one of my favorite characters I can relate to the most. It's due for her shyness, her love for animals, and the kindness to her friends and everyone around her. Now, some may find her annoying due to the lack of confidence in some episodes, but hey, she isn't perfect. Yes, she doesn't carry some of the lessons that she's learned in a few episodes, but she's not the one to be reckoned with when you piss her off. She has learned, but we just don't see her that often to know for sure. Part of me actually feels sorry. It's always the shy ones that get picked on the most. But it would not be wise to mess with Fluttershy unless you want to end up like him.
Fatality.
Oh my, I hope I didn't do that too hard.
And then there's my personal favorite, Pinkie Pie. Okay, yes, I know my favorite pony is the color pink. Where's the love and tolerance, people? Well, I'll tell you what. Those who shall continue to persecute me for liking pink will find Zap Bubbles shoved right up. So Pinkie Pie, also voiced by Andrea Lippman, is the literal party animal of the group. Always full of smiles and immeasurable amounts of energy. Raised on a dull, depressing rock farm, Pinkamena Diane Pie, and that really was her full name, I don't get it either, was a sad little filly. That is, until she caught a glimpse of Rainbow Dash's sonic rain boom and discovered the joy of smiling and parties. She likes making friends, making ponies smile, sweets, and throwing a party for everything. Ever. She can also be a little stubborn and paranoid, but that's mostly due to her naive nature. She's also the pony who sings the most, and is usually the first to break out into song. She's also really random, and can often be seen turning all of reality into a bowl of pudding, which ultimately makes her the comic relief. At times, her energy can be a bit annoying, but it's just Pinkie being Pinkie. It ain't like she's hurting nobody, and cupcakes doesn't count!
To those curious, apparently some fans think Pinkie's some kind of psycho killer just because of one fanfic based on one moment on one episode, where Pinkie got all loopy and started talking to a bunch of turnips and lint.
There's a dark side to every great franchise, people.
And then, of course, we come to the big one. The main lead for the show, Twilight Sparkle, voiced by the lovely and very talented Tara Strong.
First impressions of her have come off as an antisocial, shy, sheltered bookworm, but as episodes progress, we start to see her change. The whole series does revolve around her and her friends, but with the finales and two-parters, she is the one that is given the most attention and character development.
In many ways, Twilight Sparkle is the glue that holds the main six together, although mostly she's insecure of herself. She has all this intelligence but doesn't know what to use it for. It's sort of an emotional need for her to have friends, even though she said in the past the fate of Equestria doesn't lay on her making friends, when in truth, it's the exact opposite. All she wants is just to feel needed and loved. But digging past the flaws she has, she's there to help and support her friends. Her methods are logical and reasonable, and often she does make the right choices in a few episodes, and it's through her confidence and determination that keeps her friends together.
I'll admit, it is funny to sometimes see Twilight resorting to books to learn most things, like making s'mores or how to have a sleepover. But nothing ever exactly goes to plan, or by the book in certain cases, and yes, she gets easily worried about her studies. We all do at some point. However, when Twilight gets worried, let's just say, she takes it to a whole new level.
Through it all, Twilight Sparkle proves her worth in standing up for her friends, believing in them, and never failing to give up on those in need. Friendship just can't be explained in a book. It has to be lived. And that's something that books just can't teach the lovably, socially awkward mare.
And there are the archetypes: the bookworm, party girl, tomboy, drama queen, shy one, and the hard worker. And there are so many other characters I could talk about as well, such as Spike, Princess Celestia, Princess Luna, Scootaloo, Applebloom, Sweetie Belle, Derpy Hooves, Shirley, Big Mac, and Sakura. And of course the show can't go without its fair share of antagonists like Trixie, Gilda, the Flim Flam Brothers, and Diamond Tiara. Okay, maybe I'm going overboard a bit too much. Let your mind breathe. So with the main 6 characters out of the way, and the introduction about the show, I bring you now to the main event. How am I going to give MLPFIM a review? Am I going to riff an episode? Am I going to review the entire series? No. I'm going to do this in the easiest way possible. A top 7 list. And why top 7? 7's always a lucky number. And why not top 5 or 10? Because I'm not normal. I don't know, it's my own thing. Now before I begin, I want to say these are my top 7 favorite, not top 7 best. Everyone's list is going to be different, and by no means am I the official guy to say what is best and what's not. And it's all a matter of opinions. And it's not ripping off. Doing something your own way and being inspired by others isn't a bad thing. Never really bothered me anyway. So let's get cracking. My top 7 favorite My Little Pony Friendship is Magic episodes. Let's go.
And we're starting off the list with one of the lesser seen episodes, number 7, Bridal Gossip. A mysterious zebra shows up in the middle of Ponyville one morning, and this has the whole town in a fright, refusing to open their shops to the hooded creature. Twilight's friends of course don't know what to make of this. It's here we're not only introduced to Zecora the zebra, but also Apple Bloom, Applejack's younger sister who, along with Twilight, doesn't view Zecora in a bad light at all. Rather, she sees Zecora as a misunderstood individual who's just getting a bad rap from how she looks. Unfortunately, Apple Bloom doesn't have this sort of personality later on.
This is probably the only episode I can stand with Apple Bloom before she decides to turn into a whiny, annoying little...
When Apple Bloom goes missing, Twilight and her friends go after Zecora into the dangerous Everfree Forest where they encounter mysterious flowers known as the Poison Joke. And, not to spoil anything, I personally think Fluttershy gets the funniest short end of the stick.
When I first saw this episode, I'll admit I was a bit disappointed upon first watching this, but after rewatching it isn't half bad. The only reason why this is at the bottom is while I do appreciate the episode for the moral, structure-wise it's a bit predictable, and the whole child being more mature card is a bit cliche. But hey, maybe I've seen way too many episodes to know how certain plot formulas work. The one thing I found amusing about this episode was how it handles Zecora. Yes, this episode dealt with ethnicity, and as Zecora puts it, not judging a book by its cover. And I like episodes that try to spread the message across. This episode doesn't really deal with racism. Discrimination is more the word I'd use for it. But I'll admit I do have one or two problems with some of the things in this episode. For one thing, Zecora is reminiscent of... I know I'm gonna get probably some weird comments from this, but she's reminiscent of people from Africa with, you know, the neck bands, the voice talking in rhythm, like how her style was portrayed in the 80s. And that apparently, for Friendship is Magic, is totally fine. Yet, this little pony, who is just a pony version of Goofy practically, gets everyone's panties in a bunch. This is acceptable. This is offensive.
You really are an idiot!
And secondly, Twilight distinctly says there's no such thing as voodoo or supernatural powers, implying I think she doesn't believe in ghosts or spirits. So magic is real, but ghost spirits and voodoo are not. Well played, MLP. That's like saying Harry Potter doesn't believe in toasters or something. Overall, this episode, while predictable, still enjoyable, and taught a very basic lesson on not to discriminate. If only more kid shows were willing to teach that. Oh my god, she's staring right into my soul.
Number 6. Mystery on the Friendship Express. Oh boy, I'm already hungry thinking about this episode.
But Bad Critic, this episode doesn't have a friendship moral in it. It's just a filler episode. Isn't Pinkie Pie secretly a serial killer? Don't they know Cupcakes is the goriest fanfic of all time?
Please, like we haven't heard this one before. Usually with episodes focused on Pinkie Pie, we can always expect an episode filled with randomness, laughs, and hopefully, a smile on your face in the end. In this episode, Pinkie is tasked with transporting a special cake to Canterlot on a train ride for a special baking type celebration thing. Things take a turn for the worst when the cake is nearly ruined, and at this point, everyone is a suspect. Notice how I'm not saying every pony. So sue me. Especially including the 3 other rival bakers on the train whom Pinkie suspects may be in on the tarnishing of the cake. Oh boy, it's like Clue all over again! Not that I'm complaining, of course. Now yes, this episode is just for filler, but it's one of the last ones before the epic huge Season 2 finale. And hey, filler episodes aren't bad. They have their purposes. It gives the viewer a chance to breathe and soak in the story. Which is funny, because there are only 3 story arcs in the series, and they usually span to just 2 episodes.
What really sold this episode was Pinky herself. Now, through the series, Pinky has had her fair share of memorable moments. Ask any MLP fan and you might get mentions of the Smile, Smile, Smile song, or sometimes Cupcakes, which quite frankly has become overrated. But she is always an interesting character to work with. In this, she turns up the theatrics and reminds me a lot of old comedy movies I've seen in the past. Her comedic style and timing seems a little basic, but it works, and that's why she's one of my favorites. I mean, it's like she's one of the lost Looney Tunes or something. I loved how Twilight was so cool about this. She's just like, usual day for me. Now, I love mystery episodes, and this being their first attempt at a mystery-filled episode, and with the twist at the end, I think it actually turned out alright. By the way, don't watch this episode if you got an empty stomach. I guarantee you'll be pausing the video just to look for food, especially when Pinky starts talking about the cake and the others talk of their food. Seriously, not cool, Pinky.
Oh great, now I'm all hungry now. Curse you, Pinkie Pie!
Okay, so, number 5, Return of Harmony. Big bad overlord of chaos versus 6 Technicolor ponies. Doesn't sound too epic, but man, do they make this epic in part 2.
But be it, Critic, why are you putting a two-parter on the list? That's not how a list works. Are you a changeling, bro? You a changeling, bro? Huh? Are you?
Well, Derpy, I just don't know what went wrong. Okay, before some of you freak out, two-parters on this list I grouped together as one cohesive episode, and besides, it's my list. Yours is probably way different than mine.
Upon being released from his prison, thanks to Souls Free, the chaotic entity known as Discord, voiced by John Delancey, you know, that one dude from Star Trek, what was his name again? Oh yeah, W. He returns to try and turn Ponyville into a state of pure chaos. Celestia calls up Twilight and her friends and informs them that the only way to stop Discord is to gather up the elements of harmony. But it turns out, spoilers, Discord stole them! So it's up to the main 6 to stop them. This episode really tests the group's friendship, as Discord, the ever-clever mastermind that he is, brainwashes everyone and turns them against one another.
Return of Harmony is a great way to reintroduce the characters to the audience, and also it provides clips from Season 1 and the lessons each of the 6 have learned. I had caught on to MLP around the time episode 20 of Season 1 came on, so when I found out there was a Season 2, I was really hopeful and excited for it. And with this new villain, Discord, how could it go wrong? For a sign of things to come later on in Season 2, Return of Harmony really turned up the drama dial with all the interactions between the characters. Many memes were born in this episode, let me tell you. Discord himself is a riot, the sort of villain that just loves to cause chaos without a care in the world, reminding me of one of my all-time favorite Disney villains, Hades. Though probably not as threatening as a future villain of Season 2, Discord is certainly more memorable in my mind than Nightmare Moon. Delancey really brings the character to life, from being insanely weird to boomingly threatening. He's basically Q and just in a different body. Seriously, watch some of Q stuff and then this. They are bizarrely similar. This episode showed how far Twilight and her friends have come, and the lessons they've learned along the way. This was the episode that put everything they learned to the ultimate test, and the real moral at the end of this hits home with me. No matter how hard things get, never give up on your friends. Even if they get brainwashed and turn into complete jerks, as Twilight puts it. And hey, if Hasbro can get John friggin' Delancey, who knows what else it can get? Who next? James Arnold Taylor? Jim Cummings? Rob Paulson? A guy can dream, can't they?
Y'all mad, Sugar Cube?
Okay, we're gonna take a quick little commercial break, so go ahead and grab some snacks, pee break, whatever, and we'll be right back.
Aw yeah! What up, every pony? This is Vinyl Scratch, and you're watching the Toon Critic, keeping it totally tuned for your viewing entertainment.
Looking for something hilarious to listen to? Stop on by to listen to the guys on Master Pony Fanfic Theater, now hosted by yours truly, Jinxie. Not that we are trying to rip off anyone, it's just a fun old podcast with me, Jack, Dashy, Ian, and Jewel reading some of the weirdest stuff you can find around. Viewer discretion is advised, you don't want to know half the stuff I've read and heard. Links in the description. Have fun.
Hello, and my name is Mike the Microphone, and you're watching the Toon Critic, keeping it totally tuned for your viewing pleasure.
Number 4. Dragonshy. In this episode, the skies of Ponyville are filled with a mysterious smog coming from the mountain. Fluttershy is the only one who seems to take notice, but is too shy to tell anyone. Twilight informs everyone the smoke is coming from a snoring dragon high up in the mountains. And of course, Fluttershy may be the only one who can actually do something. It's always up to the ones who are scared out of their mind and actually do something. For one of Fluttershy's first episodes, pretty much all of her episodes are like this. Stay shy until threatened and then go into piss off mode. Trust me, there is one episode where she actually does snap. If I learned anything from this, it's listen to everyone, no matter who is trying to speak.
The moral for this episode coincides with Return Harmony, but there's more to it than that. Be understanding of your friends, and also to never be afraid to stand up for yourself. I knew eventually I had to put a Fluttershy episode on the list, and I couldn't really decide between this one or Hurricane Fluttershy. Reason being why I finally settled on Dragonshy is mostly because it's one of the very first episodes I watched, and the whole stand up for yourself part hits home with me as well. And yes, sadly spoiler, she actually does stand up to the dragon and surprisingly makes him cry. This further proves my theory that the shy ones are not to be messed with, because they are usually the ones that call you up at 3 in the morning like,
Hi.
And while we're on the topic of relationships, this little guy, Angel, her pet bunny, they must have a unique abusive relationship or something. Like, does Angel tie up...
And with just one picture, a fanfic was born onto the world. But since we're PG-13, we can't show you. Nah.
Number 3. Read it and weep. Rainbow Dash is confined to a hospital bed after accidentally crashing, and is left with very little things to do to get rid of her boredom. Twilight suggests that Rainbow Dash reads, which Dash immediately labels as uncool and not worth her time. But later on, she gives in to reading an action-packed story about an Indiana Jones-esque pony named Daring Do. After reading through the story, Rainbow Dash finds a love for reading, but is too afraid to tell any of her friends after she openly mocked reading as an egghead activity. This is probably one of the more subtle ways I've seen a TV show try to introduce reading to a younger audience.
With all the movie references Friendship is Magic is making, I'm half expecting like Jack Sparrow to pop up as a pirate pony. Dash doesn't have a lot of episodes to her own. At least she gets 2 or 3 in Season 2. Coincidentally, Season 2 holds my favorite and my least favorite episode, thanks to you. There's so much more to this episode than all the Daring Do parts, which are still awesome by the way, Indiana Jones rocks. Deep past this is a very strong moral. You shouldn't knock something until you've given it a chance. That's a pretty strong message that is actually fitting to those who constantly mock MLPFIM. Never be afraid to try new things. And in a creative way to express this in a literal fashion, never judge a book by its cover.
A reading rainbow.
Alright, my turn. This day is going to be... Spoilers! Number 2, a Canterlot wedding. Well, would you look at that? 2 two-parters for the price of 1. And speaking of numbers, there's just simply 3 words to describe this episode. Epic fucking finale. If My Little Pony Friendship is Magic were to just end here, I think I could be satisfied with this ending on such a high note. It had brilliant writing, well thought out conflicts, great songs, and a fantastic happy ending. In this two-parter, Twilight and her friends are invited to Twilight's brother's wedding. Oh hi, random brother who Twilight never mentioned in the past, voiced by Andrew Francis. Again, this is another Twilight episode, but you don't hear me complaining about it. We find out that her brother, named Shining Armor, is getting married to Princess Miyamori Cadenza, who happens to be Twilight's old foal-sitter Cadence, voiced by Britt McKillop. Unlike the other two-parters, the pacing was done a little better, and it was like watching a mini Disney movie. Even though we're just now introduced to Shining Armor and Cadence, as we move forward, we see the interactions between them and Twilight. Twilight is very concerned about how she's not told ahead of time about the wedding, and we see backstory through Twilight's song, Big Brother Best Friend Forever, which is a great song by the way, of how Shining Armor was the only friend that Twilight had until she came to Ponyville, even though we're just now introduced to him.
The interaction between Shining Armor and Twilight for both song and when they arrive in Canterlot shows how close they are, although it would have been nice to see more of a backstory of Cadence and where she came from, because one would think with royal blood ties to Celestia as her niece, that would make her a princess as well. In fact, maybe she's just a princess by name. As the episode progresses, we see the suspicion along with Twilight of Cadence's behavior and rude attitude up until the cliffhanger of part 1. And we really feel the betrayal Twilight feels when her brother, friends, and even Celestia scolds her. And we can't really mention most of the episode without talking about Shining, Cadence, and the villain Chrysalis. Like we said, spoilers. Shining already has the look of a big brother, though the voice does slightly throw me off. And he is a proud guardian. He takes his job seriously when needed, but he is more laid back and carefree than he lets on. Cadence, well, we don't see much of her personality, but we know she is strong and kind to the others. When she wasn't Chrysalis, at least. Chrysalis is one of the best villains on the show, and kudos to her clever plan. It almost worked too, how she takes advantage of Shining Armor's spell and his love for Cadence. She's a bit old-fashioned, wanting to take over Canterlot through means of force, but in the end, and honestly through a rather cheap turnabout I think, Cadence and Shining prove that love is just as strong as a friendship, and send Chrysalis packing. In this little parody of the royal wedding, the two-parters may be darker than any of the other episodes in the series, maybe a little more darker than Return of Harmony. And upon rewatching, I found a few scenes featuring, well, sadism, underworld portals, kidnapping, brainwashing, and even terrorism. You know, totally for kids. Moral of the story, listen to Twilight. And seriously, it's like they learned nothing from Lesson 0. Now, before we get to number 1, I'd like to say there were a lot of episodes I wanted on this list, but I had to choose 7, so here are some of the honorable mentions. Lesson 0, Friendship is Magic, and Sonic Rainboom. Now, I can hear the fanboys gasping, why isn't the pilot your favorite choice? Or the best choice, for that matter? Honestly, I do like it, but it's not necessarily in my top 7. Maybe my top 10, who knows? But then, really, what does that leave? For those who saw me on episode 11 of Radiant Eclipse, you'll know what my favorite episode is, but for those that don't, here it is. My all-time favorite episode is... Luna Eclipsed. In the very first Halloween special for Friendship is Magic, we are introduced to the lonely princess of the night, Princess Luna. To save a long history lesson, Luna's evil dark side, Nightmare Moon, tried to bring the world into eternal night, and everyone got mad so they don't really trust her. And because of one mistake, she gets a pretty bad rep. And then the whole town celebrates her by fearing her and being scared of her, except she doesn't know this and honestly feels like crap because no one told her. Way to go, guys. Just way to go. So in this episode, Twilight attempts to help Luna out and show the town she's changed. Except Luna isn't quite up to date with the culture of the world, not even understanding the concept of fun. There is so much more to her, I think, than meets the eye. The whole celebration, I think, is kind of a jerk move. Luna wants to relax and have a good time, except she gets the short end of the stick in this episode. And Pinkie Pie, you don't make things any better, at least until the end. Nice job trolling the audience, at least. Now, since this is a Halloween special, and I do love me a good one of those, how exactly does it fare up? Well, obviously, since it's number 1, it's on this list for a good reason. It's the atmosphere this episode created. Yes, it's a Halloween special, but the real reason it's my number 1 is the moral. To accept those who are different than you. Never be afraid of people who are different than you, and plus there's even a third moral to this. Everyone deserves a second chance. And it's still a brilliant episode and a great introduction to perhaps one of my favorite side characters on the show. What better way could there be to end this review than talking about the final part of the show that caught my interest, the animation itself. Now, you'd think Flash 8 wouldn't be anything special, but to me it looks incredible. The show is animated in both Canada and in the Philippines. The animation is smooth, crisp, and quite colorful as well. The color is perfect for this animated show, and what I find most unique is how simple this looks, and I know simple is an odd word to use in this, but with the series being in Flash, it makes things much easier for fans of the show to use Flash animation to make their own Friendship is Magic stories and adventures. Well played, Miss Faust. Well played. And those have been my top 7 favorite episodes of Friendship is Magic. It may not be your list, but everyone's entitled to their own opinions. With Season 3 on the horizon this fall, I'm thrilled to see what this show has in store for the bronies and Pegasisters of this awesome community. I may not say this about a lot of series, but I firmly believe that if Friendship is Magic were to end, the fans will be right there to pick it up. I mean, once they went to BronyCon, I think there is no limit to how far the community can go. Look at all the fandom it's generated. Crossovers are everywhere with it. It's even gained mainstream news, while most mainstream is confused as to why this virus continues to grow. YouTube still continues to generate the most fan-based content like Dr. Hoops and Assistant, the Dot Mob series by Hot Diggity Demon. They've got Everfree Radio, and all these awesome brony musicians and Flash animators. Even to this day, I'm still discovering the wonders this community has, and I believe it'll keep growing for as long as the fans keep believing. Now before I end this, I want to say two things. To the bronies, keep on supporting the show. Buy the episodes off of iTunes to help with the show, is what I can really suggest. Buy the shirts too if you want. For those that have never seen the show but are curious too, thanks to this, I highly recommend it. In the words of Walt Disney, I end this review as such. You're dead if you aim only for kids. Adults are only kids grown up anyway. I'm the Toon Critic, keeping you totally tuned for your viewing entertainment. Stay awesome, guys, and have a nice day. My amigas, ¿qué pasó? Hope you enjoyed this video of mine. I'm very proud with how this came out. 4 months in development, I'd say were totally worth it. If you want to see more, check out some of my other videos on my channel. Like, favorite, comment, subscribe. You know the usual stick these days. Shoutouts to my special guest cameos, Mike the Microphone, Melee Princess, and No Way King. And also to my clan for providing voices, animations, and helping to contribute for the overall script. I really hope to get some exposure thanks to this. And I ask of you simply to spread this around, show it to your friends, enjoy, and who knows, it might get somewhere or voted possibly in a top 10. Either way, thank you all very so much. I know that sounds weird, but whatever. Chi-Town Bro Hoof, represent.
When it feels so good inside, why can't I mention Fluttershy and a timid loving mind? How she can be herself near animals but shies away from her own kind. Why can't I mention Pinkie Pie and the way she kind of acts a bit like me sometimes? You see, I used to hate that I liked My Little Pony. Not anymore. Not anymore. Now I'm proud to be a bro.